Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to detail in the abdominal cavity. As you can see a pretty bad pull on the obliques to the rib cage, and this is a pretty bad pull that was pretty transparent as well, and the client recognized that there was a lot of tension being pulled there. In fact, a lot of this tension was pulling on the rhomboids and in the lower back. So what we're going to use different tools such as the tend unit, the 8-way heated scraper, and some myofascial decompression. Whenever we would find tension in an area, we would figure out where it's at and trace all the way down and use that as a reference line until the reference line began to dissipate and the obliques and the abdominal cavity would be able to relax a lot more. Also, the client was experiencing a lot of restriction in his breathing, which can make it very, very difficult to find these tensions. It can feel like it's in your lat, can feel like it's in your back, and it can feel like it's in your abdominal, hips, and so forth. Right here we are heating up the heated scraper, just giving it time so that way it can start its heating up process, and then we're palpating to see where the tension and how far it goes. As you can see right here in the hip, it's pulling right here. And one of the things that I did notice as I began to palpate further and further along in the session is that it actually went into the IT band. But that's not the main concern for today. Today is the abdominal cavity, so we focus on that. It's pretty interesting here because you can hear some of the densification, and also I ended up switching my mic out with a cover for it, and that cover helped out quite a bit to help reduce sound and to capture these crunches just a little bit more clearly. And as you can see right here, we're finding more and more of that densification, but not as much in the middle. Now we're finding it more on the external oblique. And you can begin to see how it's less jumpy, but it's becoming more and more predominantly obvious where the root of the tension is actually located. And it was becoming so transparently obvious where the tension was that I didn't even need a whole palm or knuckle to find the root of the tension. And sometimes you just need a single tool or just a small amount of pressure, so that way you can go ahead and find where tension is really located. And doing perpendicular movement can help alleviate a lot of that tension, even in the intercostalis. Now here it's looking a lot better. And again, this last piece was going to take me just quite a little bit more of a moment to really alleviate. There's a technique that it was always mentioned to me, which it was you find one root of area of tension and you find another root of area of tension, and you go opposite to one another. Now this is typically used whenever you're cramping. So if you're cramping in your calf, you grab the calcaneus tendon, which is the Achilles, and then you grab the top of your calf and then you move them opposite of one another, and it helps to activate the body's parasympathetic. And that's what I was basically doing in this area, is trying to activate that parasympathetic. As one area moves up, the other one moves down, and so by doing them back and forth, we're trying to see if it will activate the parasympathetic and make this area just a little bit easier to work. And it looks like it's actually working. Now, as you can see right here, it's looking a lot better, so much less tension. And now it looks like that from the original area, it's moving a little bit more downward. And so we just continue to trace. We try to follow the body. We're not trying to say it's one way or the other. Every situation is unique and every body is different. So we listen to whatever we find and allow the body to allow us to trace the tension out. Because when one area compensates, another area will compensate, another area will compensate, and that creates global tension versus simple localized tension. Like I mentioned before, this heated scraper is probably one of my favorite tools. It applies heat and it also makes it easy to detail in a lot of these areas. As you can hear, the densification and audible cues really just helps so much. Absolutely love this tool. And here it's sounding like the audible cues are actually starting to dissipate, although we still are having some visual cues. The audible cues are sounding way and way less, which is a form of improvement that we are continuing on. One of the things that I also like to do is I like to use the precision vibration device when I find a mound of tension. I will use the 10 device to go ahead and stabilize, and as the percussion unit is doing its thing, I will use the heated scraper and I will actually detail while it's trying to activate parasympathetic. The heated scraper is also applying heat, and I'm scraping and detailing the area. Now notice I'm doing the opposite now. I'm stabilizing with my hand, and I'm detailing with the 10 unit. You can mix and match as you whatever suits your situation, and one is always going to be a little bit more better than the other depending on the situation. You always want to be able to adjust to it. And in this situation, heated scraping worked out really great, and now we finished off with the precision vibration while stabilizing with our hands and then tracing outwards. Now what we'll do is we will dig underneath the rib cage with the hands and just checking to see if there's any densification, which there was in this area. I remember exactly feeling tension like this all the way through, and you can see right here, this is another root tension to that rib cage, because you can see right when I go right under the rib cage, you can see it, but when I move closer to the abdominal cavity, it's not as predominant. So right here, you don't really see it too much, but then as soon as I work my way back up near that rib cage, then it becomes more and more apparent. So it becomes more and more noticeable, and I'm beginning to say, okay, well, a lot of this tension is probably going to be... So what I'm doing right here is I'm feeling that rib, and as I was holding that nodule, that tension, I was feeling the rib, or I was moving with the rib, and I can actually feel when that nodule would pull from the rib cage. And so that's what I was doing right there in that moment. But yes, this is an awesome technique. Now this is where I mentioned that as I was tracing the tension downwards, I could actually feel the tension pull in the hip. And at one point or another, I could feel it pull into the TFL and into the IT band. Now finally, right here, just palpating and checking to see how it is. You can see that the external obliques are finally starting to relax, feeling a lot more greater, if you would. And if you see right here on this hip, now you can start to see how everything starts to pull. So remember, we originated everything up top, but now the outside oblique, or even the quadratus lumborum, is actually pulling up on these rib cages. And this is where I'm feeling that hip. Really begin to have this bounded up tension all around. You can see how precise this tension really gets. It's so widespread, yet it's so precise on where all the areas of tension are. It really showcased why a lot of these sessions cause me to take hours to work just single areas, because I really try to give a client the most detailed work as possible. Now, all the tension right here, it was all being pulled, and it's still pulling into that IT band as I was demonstrating, as I was talking, but this is the main outlet. Now next, what we're going to do is we are going to go into some myofascial decompression. So we're going to find the tension and then trace outwards and try to mimic the same pattern that the tension was pulling. Now our reminder is that we are using cupping as myofascial decompression, meaning with standard massage, we are putting positive pressure. We're putting a lot of pressure into the body. And with cupping, what we're doing is we're pulling apart, so it has that negative pressure. Notice that that cup did not want to stick there. So I have a solution for this. You're going to see me test this out a few more times just to make sure that the areas of the certain areas that the cups just won't stick. Well, I have these silicone cups that I really, really like, Lure, and they are amazing for these little areas. So watch. Nope, doesn't work. So we move those aside, and we move over to the Lure Essential Cups. So all we gotta do is pull them in the opposite direction, and then just flip them on top of the skin, and they stick, and they actually are pretty tight. And this is why I always travel with these, because whenever you're working around the ankle, whenever you're working around little intricate areas that these larger plastic cups cannot suction, these will make it so much easier to detail these little intricate areas. There we go. And we have one more left, so we decided to use this one just for good measure near the sternum right there. And then there we go. Voila. Now we leave these cups on for 5 minutes, remove the cups, and then we take a look at them. But guys, once again, I am John from GreaterTherapeutics. Appreciate you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment on what you think, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video.